Cop smashes black woman's car. The sound of a police baton striking metal fills the air. A black woman sits in her car, minding her business, when suddenly a police officer walks up raising his baton without warning. With one forceful swing, he smashes the side mirror of her car, leaving her stunned. The woman, shocked and confused, quickly looks at the officer, wondering why he would do something like that. The officer stands tall with a look of pure disdain and accuses her of a minor violation. "You're parked too close to the hydrant," he says, his voice laced with authority. But the woman, trying to stay calm, explains that she made an honest mistake. She didn't mean to park there. However, the officer refuses to listen. His face is stone cold, dismissive of her words, as if he's already made up his mind. Her attempts to reason with him only seem to make things worse. The officer, irritated by her calmness, starts to escalate the situation. Without warning, he takes another swing at the car, smashing it further. The woman's heart races, but she remains calm, refusing to let him see her frustration. What happens when a police officer messes with the wrong person? You won't believe what happens next when she reveals her true identity. The officer's reaction will leave you in shock. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments below. What happens when a police officer makes a snap judgment about the wrong person? The black woman stands composed by her car, the crumpled damage caused by the officer's reckless action now in front of her. She hasn't raised her voice, not even a hint of fear on her face, but there's a quiet strength that radiates from her. She's a woman who's worked hard to earn her place in society, and it shows in the way she holds herself. Her posture is upright, and her eyes are steady, asserting confidence without needing to shout. It's clear to anyone who looks at her that she has faced challenges, but she stands tall because of the dignity she carries. Although she's just been treated with unwarranted aggression, there's no sign of her flinching. Her appearance, her calmness, might have given this officer the impression that she's someone easy to dismiss. But there's more to her than meets the eye. She's a diplomat, a position that carries respect and power. Yet, she keeps that part of her life hidden for now. She's not here to flaunt her status or demand anything. She's simply asserting the right to be treated fairly, without unnecessary conflict. The officer, however, is another story entirely. To him, she's nothing more than a figure to dominate. His eyes scan her, quick to make judgments based on her skin color, the way she's dressed, and his own biases. He doesn't see the quiet strength in her stance, nor the intelligence and poise behind her calm demeanor. To him, she is just another woman, someone he can push around without any consequences. His power is in the badge he wears, and the authority it gives him, but he's mistaken if he thinks that's all it takes to command respect. Standing tall in front of her, he dismisses her as if she's unworthy of his attention. The officer's behavior is as predictable as it is infuriating. He assumes she's someone beneath him, someone to be scolded and ignored. His voice rises with arrogance, quick to assert his position without knowing the first thing about her. As he dismisses her attempts to explain what happened, the officer's words reflect years of ingrained prejudice, assumptions about her based purely on her race, her gender, and what he perceives as her position in society. The woman sits quietly in her car, parked in a busy public area. She's not doing anything wrong. She's simply running errands, taking a brief moment to herself. The air is calm, and the hum of traffic in the distance creates a peaceful backdrop. Her car, parked in a regular spot, is just another vehicle on the street, unremarkable in its place. The sun is shining, and the world continues on around her. But suddenly, a shadow looms over the car. She doesn't have time to react before the police officer stands at her driver's side window, his posture rigid and authoritative. He's tall, his uniform crisp, his badge gleaming. But his presence feels more like a threat than a reassurance. The woman looks up, startled by his sudden appearance, and before she can even speak, the officer begins accusing her of something. "Ma'am, you're parked in the wrong spot," the officer says sharply, without even a greeting. His words are not a question. They are a declaration. He doesn't bother with niceties or trying to understand the situation. Confused, the woman gently rolls down the window, her voice steady but calm. "I'm sorry, officer. I'm not aware of any signs or restrictions here. I'm just making a quick stop." Her words, however, are met with dismissal. The officer barely acknowledges her response, instead repeating his claim in a more condescending tone. "You've got no business parking here. I don't care what you say. I'm giving you a ticket." The woman's attempt to reason falls on deaf ears. She can feel her frustration building, but she doesn't let it show. She remains calm and composed, trying to explain that she's not causing any harm and that there's been a misunderstanding. But the officer, intent on asserting his authority, doesn't want to listen. "No," he snaps, his face hardening. "You need to move, or I'll take this further." The woman tries again. "Sir, I'm happy to move, but I'm not sure what the issue is." Before she can finish, the officer interrupts, his voice rising. "Enough! Don't make this difficult," he growls, clearly escalating the situation for no reason. Then, to her shock, without any further warning, the officer reaches for his baton. The woman blinks in disbelief as he brings the baton down on her car window with a violent strike, shattering the glass in an instant. The loud sound echoes around the parking lot, drawing the attention of anyone nearby. The woman freezes. Her heart races, but she remains seated, gripping the steering wheel, her knuckles white. The officer, with his baton still raised, looks at her, seemingly expecting a reaction. But the woman does not shout or lash out. Instead, she breathes deeply, her calmness in stark contrast to the officer's aggressive stance. Around them, the onlookers have started to take notice. A few have taken out their phones, recording the incident. The tension in the air is palpable, but nobody steps forward to intervene. Some are whispering amongst themselves, shocked by what they've just witnessed. But most stand back, unsure of what to do. The officer's face is flushed with anger and authority, but his eyes flicker with uncertainty as he sees the calm demeanor of the woman he's just attacked. As the officer stands there, growing increasingly hostile, his words become sharper, and his body language more aggressive. He seems to think that his badge gives him the right to push this woman around without any consequences. "You've got a lot of nerve, don't you?" the officer snaps, stepping closer to the car window. His voice is loud and condescending, filled with arrogance. "Just because you think you're above the law doesn't mean you are." The woman remains seated, unshaken by his words. She takes a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I haven't done anything wrong, officer. I'm just asking why this is happening." But the officer isn't listening. He's too focused on his own anger and his need to assert dominance over someone he perceives as weaker than him. "Don't play dumb. I know what you're up to," he sneers. "This whole 'I don't know what's going on' act won't work. You've got some nerve thinking you can get away with things." She knows it's not worth trying to reason with him. He's made up his mind about her, and no amount of logic or calmness will change that. But she can't just let him continue without standing up for herself. "Officer, I'm not doing anything wrong. I've been polite. I just want to know why I'm being treated like this," she says, trying once again to get through to him. Instead of listening, the officer gets closer, his face now inches from the window. "You think you can talk your way out of this, huh?" He glares at her, not seeing a person but just someone to control. Someone he's decided is guilty without any reason. I'm the one with the power here, not you. The tension in the air thickens. By now, a few people nearby have noticed what's going on. They pull out their phones, recording the interaction. A few bystanders exchange uneasy glances, unsure of whether they should get involved. Most of them stay silent, not wanting to risk angering the officer. They've seen too many incidents where things escalate quickly when someone challenges an authority figure. But the woman stays calm, her hands resting on the steering wheel, her face composed. She doesn't let his aggression get to her. Deep down, she knows she's in the right, but she can't help but feel the sting of his words. His hostility is getting worse by the second, and it's clear that he's treating her this way because of her race. "You don't get to speak to me like that," the officer spits, his voice now full of contempt. "You're just another person who thinks they can act however they want. Maybe I should teach you a lesson in respect." The woman's eyes narrow slightly. She hasn't raised her voice. She hasn't done anything but remain calm in the face of his unfair treatment. But the officer's words, his assumption that he can treat her however he likes, cut deep. This isn't just about a small misunderstanding anymore. It's about the power he's trying to wield over her, simply because he feels entitled to it. Despite his increasing aggression, the woman remains composed, though her frustration is starting to show. She's been more than patient. She's tried every reasonable approach, but it seems to be doing no good. She realizes now that this situation is not about her explanation. It's about the officer's need to dominate. And the longer it goes on, the more it becomes clear to the bystanders that the officer is misusing his authority. The crowd's discomfort grows. Some are recording, capturing the unjust situation unfold, but most are too scared to speak up. They don't know how things will turn out if they step in, and it's a sobering reality that they may just stand by and watch, even if they know it's wrong. The woman's patience is wearing thin. But she knows that if she reacts with anger or frustration, it will only give the officer more ammunition. He wants to provoke her. He wants to show that he's in charge, that he's the one who gets to decide what's right and wrong. But she's not playing his game. Instead, she silently continues to look at him, her posture straight and dignified. She knows this moment is important, not just for her, but for everyone who sees it. Because this is how people in power get away with mistreating others, by making them feel small, by making them feel like they don't matter. But she's not backing down. She refuses to let him make her feel less than what she is. She is a person, with just as much right to be treated with respect as anyone else, and she will not let him take that from her. The officer, still trying to regain his composure, stands there, glaring at the woman, his jaw clenched tightly. But she doesn't flinch. She doesn't show any fear or anger. Instead, she remains calm, an unshakable presence amidst the storm of his hostility. The officer's words grow increasingly nonsensical, his attempts to assert his power more forceful, as he refuses to back down. "You need to learn how to respect authority," he sneers, but his voice is beginning to sound unsure. She knows he's trying to maintain control, but his tone lacks the confidence he once had. It's clear that he's trying to hold on to what little power he feels slipping away. The woman listens quietly, taking a slow, deliberate breath as she weighs her next move. She knows the officer is wrong. She knows that this moment isn't about defending herself, but about showing him that his authority does not give him the right to disrespect others. His arrogance blinds him to her dignity, but she won't allow him to continue. And then she does something unexpected. Reaching into her bag with calm precision, she pulls out a badge, small but significant. The officer's eyes narrow as he watches her every move. He's certain that this is the moment she's going to finally explode. But she doesn't. She simply holds the badge up in front of him, the glint of the diplomatic seal catching the light. For a brief moment, time seems to stand still. The officer's gaze fixes on the badge, his expression faltering. It takes a moment for the full weight of the situation to sink in. The arrogant swagger that had once defined him starts to fade. His face flushes, his confidence cracking. Wait, what is this? His voice is shaky now, an edge of disbelief creeping into his words. He looks from the badge to her, back to the badge again, unable to reconcile the image of this composed woman with the authority he had assumed she lacked. She speaks slowly, almost gently, but the weight of her words lands with undeniable force. I am a diplomat. I hold a position of responsibility and respect, just as much as anyone else, and I expect to be treated accordingly. The officer stands frozen, his mind racing as the shock takes hold of him. His face twists with embarrassment, his lips moving but no words coming out. He stares at the badge, at the woman, and back at the badge, processing the stark reality of his mistake. I didn't know, he stammers, looking around at his colleagues, but none of them can help him now. The once confident officer is now just a man who has completely misjudged the situation. I'm sorry, he finally manages to blurt out. I didn't know who you were. Please, I never meant to disrespect you. Please, just forgive me. The panic in his voice is unmistakable. He fumbles for his words, trying to recover from the mess he's made. But there's no going back now. He's humiliated himself and his words are empty. The woman doesn't respond with anger. Instead, she stands there in silence, her face composed and calm, her eyes unwavering. She watches as the officer stumbles over his apology, but her silence speaks volumes. It's a silent, powerful reminder that respect isn't something that can be demanded with arrogance, and it certainly isn't something that can be earned through fear or intimidation. I expect better, she says, her voice even and controlled. This behavior is unacceptable, no matter who you think I am. The officer's face reddens even more as he stutters his apologies, each word falling out weaker than the last. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Please, But she's already stepping back, unbothered by his frantic apologies. She stands tall, her dignity intact. This will be addressed, and I hope you learn from this mistake. With that, she turns, walking away with poise, her every step firm and resolute. The officer stands still, his words caught in his throat, unable to undo the damage he's caused. The silence between them speaks louder than anything he could say now. His pride has been shattered, his sense of control destroyed, and all he can do is watch her walk away with the dignity he so carelessly tried to strip from her. The incident quickly spirals into something much bigger than anyone anticipated. Videos of the confrontation spread across social media, shared by witnesses and bystanders who had recorded the entire interaction. The clips show the police officer aggressively confronting the woman, only to be met with her calm but powerful response. People are outraged. The raw footage captures the blatant disrespect she faced, sparking a firestorm of discussions online. Within hours, news outlets pick up the story, giving it national attention. Headlines flash across the screens. Police officer shamed after disrespecting diplomat. Officer misjudges woman, faces consequences. And the abuse of power. An officer's mistake goes public. Social media platforms explode with comments, hashtags trending in response to the viral videos. People express their anger at the officer's behavior, calling out the inherent racism and misconduct displayed in the interaction. Comments flood in from all corners of the world. As the story continues to circulate, the woman, maintaining her composed demeanor, takes to her platform. As a respected diplomat, she uses her voice to address the situation. With a message of strength and resilience, she speaks publicly about what happened, using her newfound spotlight to demand change. Her voice rings clear and powerful, calling for accountability in law enforcement and the importance of respect for all individuals, regardless of their race, background, or position. "I'm speaking out today, not just for myself," she says in an interview, "but for everyone who has faced unfair treatment and discrimination simply because of who they are." This incident is an example of the power dynamics that exist, but it's also a reminder that no one should ever feel less than because of their race or their position in society. She advocates for better training and education within the police force, urging for reform and greater efforts to ensure officers respect the dignity and rights of all people they encounter, no matter their background. She emphasizes that accountability is key and that the time for real change is now. Her speech garners widespread support. Activists, community leaders, and ordinary citizens rally behind her message, pushing for more equitable treatment across all areas of society. The event sparks conversations about how pervasive systemic issues of bias and inequality have been, especially within law enforcement. Public pressure mounts for the police department involved to take action, and discussions about reform take center stage. Something needs to change, a prominent civil rights leader says in a statement. "We cannot continue to let this abuse of power go unchecked. We need better oversight, better respect, and real consequences for those who misuse their position of authority." The woman's words reach far beyond the headlines. People from all walks of life join in the conversation, demanding justice for those mistreated and advocating for laws that protect the rights of everyone, regardless of who they are. What began as a simple act of injustice has now become a call to action for fairness, equality, and justice in law enforcement. As the story reaches its powerful conclusion, the message is clear and resonates deeply with people across all walks of life. The incident that sparked the global conversation shines a spotlight on the fundamental need for respect, dignity, and fairness for all people, regardless of their race, background, or social position. The actions of the woman, who stood calm and resolute in the face of adversity, send an unmistakable message. Everyone, every individual, regardless of their background, ethnicity, or status in society, deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. At the core of the lesson is the fundamental idea that no one should ever be subjected to mistreatment simply because of their race or their place in society. The woman's calm response, her composure in the face of overt hostility and prejudice, exemplified a powerful truth: that the respect one deserves cannot be dependent on the color of their skin or their position in the social hierarchy. She demonstrated that while others may try to undermine her because of their biased beliefs, she would not allow herself to be diminished or silenced. It's a reminder that all human beings, regardless of their background, deserve fair treatment and kindness. In this instance, the woman's calm strength became a symbol of resistance against prejudice and discrimination. Her willingness to stand tall, even when faced with the abuse of power, sends a message that we must all work to create a world where such mistreatment is not tolerated. As the story unfolds, it reinforces a profound lesson about the importance of accountability. One of the key moments that stood out in the story was the officer's arrogance and abuse of power. He believed that his badge protected him, that his authority was unassailable, and that his actions could go without consequence. However, the woman's steadfastness proved him wrong. The incident underlined that everyone, no matter their position or authority, must be held accountable for their actions. The officer, who thought he could exert power without repercussions, was forced to confront the consequences of his actions. Through her dignified and unflinching response, the woman made it clear that no one is above the law, not the officer, not the institution, not the powerful. Accountability for actions, especially when it comes to those in positions of power, is crucial for a fair society. It is a reminder that accountability does not depend on one's social or professional status, but is a right every individual should expect to be honored. The woman's actions also emphasize the importance of standing up for what is right, even when the odds seem stacked against you. In the face of aggression, she chose to respond with dignity, remaining calm despite the officer's repeated attempts to provoke her. She did not let his words or actions cloud her resolve. She demonstrated that one person standing up for themselves in the face of authority can make a significant impact. It's a call to action for all of us, regardless of who we are or what power the other party holds, to always stand up against injustice. Her response was not about her own personal struggle alone, but about setting a precedent for others to do the same, standing up for what is right, especially when it seems like no one else will, can create the catalyst for change in society. Equally important, the story illustrates the value of using one's position of power or influence to fight against injustice. The woman, with her calm demeanor and her position, could have chosen to let the officer's actions slide, but instead, she used her authority to challenge the status quo, holding the officer accountable. Her position was not just about personal gain or comfort. It was about standing up for everyone who faces prejudice, discrimination, or abuse of power. Her actions demonstrated that influence, when used for the greater good, can spark real change. By using her voice and her position, she made it clear that standing against injustice doesn't require a grand stage or flashy moves. It's about using whatever platform you have to do what's right. In the end, the story serves as a lasting reminder of the importance of equality, justice, and the fight for a fair world. The woman, in her quiet strength and dignified defiance, became a beacon of hope for others. Her unwavering commitment to fairness and accountability ensured that her message reached far beyond the incident. The story is not just about one woman standing against injustice. It's about all of us standing together to ensure that no one is treated unjustly, regardless of race, position, or social standing. The ripple effects of her actions remind us that when we speak up against mistreatment and demand justice, we are not only fighting for ourselves, but for everyone who is vulnerable to discrimination. This story reinforces the idea that standing up for what is right, even in the face of daunting opposition, is the key to fostering a more just and equal society. It reminds us that every voice counts, and that courage, integrity, and the willingness to act can make all the difference in creating meaningful change. Every time we stand up against injustice, we take one step closer to a world where fairness, respect, and equality are the norm.